Hey everybody, it's Charles, your hobby hero, coming at you with another market update today. And this video is either going to make you really happy or really upset. But before we get started, if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button down in the bottom corner. I do appreciate it. I do put out regular content about the hobbies that I love the most, with this channel being dedicated to the Lorcana game. Now, the reason why I said it's just going to make you either really happy or really upset is because, as we mentioned in previous videos, there was a huge restock that hit of the first chapter. Multiple cases getting sent out to local stores, as well as big box stores getting lots of boosters put back on the shelves as well. And this has caused a pretty much fallout of the prices that we had seen on the first chapter, both enchanted and sealed products, and has really made it a buyer's market again versus a seller's market with that inventory. We're going to be taking a look at a lot of those prices, and despite a lot of bad news in the short term, why I am optimistic on first chapter going forward is because, if you're not aware, yes, we do have a restock. And again, I want to emphasize this is a restock, not a reprint. We have had the CEO of North American Operations come out and basically say, while yes, they did do a reprint of chapter 1, it was something that was very difficult to pull off, but the right thing at the time for the game. But having done that, they feel like they're in a really good spot right now, which to me says that first chapter is done for the printing. So while yes, there's a lot on the shelf right now, I do think we're going to see the end of first chapter print runs and restocks with this allocation, leading us into the release of set 4. We're also going to take a look at the Store Championship Stitches and how they've been outperforming my expectations, and why I think they're going to continue to do that going forward. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump on in. All right, so we're going to jump in and start with Chapter 1. Again, there's not a lot of good news here. We're going to jump into some of these and look at the prices. We have the Elsa Spirit of Winter. This card at the beginning of April was trending around $2,000. It's a light play listed one here. You don't know how lightly played, but it's fairly inexpensive for one being listed. Looks like one sold at that $768 already in that light play. But even the near mints are down to about $1,100, and that's actually a little bit of a rebound. I had seen them all the way down to the $1,000 mark, which, don't get me wrong, it's still very, very high. It's just a big drop off from these early April numbers. We have a raw near mint one here selling for $2,000, so we're down by half in a little less than a month's time. And a big part of that is this right here. You have 35 listings. When these were hovering around 2,000, there was a lot of factors in it, a lot of which, was a result of multiple buyouts on this card. But there was also limited inventory where that was possible. You had, anywhere from like 10 to 15 kind of hovering in there as available. So it's a little bit easier to kind of control the supply. When there's 35 listings out there and they start at basically $1,000 a pop, there are very few people that can organize a buyout for that much inventory, especially when there's still product on the shelves, there's still product being opened. Like, there's still going to be a constant influx of these Elsas. I would not be surprised to see this start dropping again. We have seen a little bit of a rally, but again, this product is still moving. Box prices are still hovering around MSRP, maybe not online, but you can still find them if you're patient on either a local level or even going to like the marketplace groups for the Disney Lorcana game. I picked up a case at MSRP, and that was shipped included. I've seen stores listing their boxes for $120, $135 for local customers. So there's a lot of this product that still has yet to be sold. We have an LCS here locally that has not even looked at their inventory for first chapter yet, because they're trying to figure out how best to support their community with that. So there's 6 cases of product here locally, and I'm sure they're not the only store nationwide that is looking to do something special with that product. rather than just selling it right out of the gate. So I do think that this actually is going to drop. We could see near mint prices close to what this light play price is right now. But again, I will put a big asterisk next to that. Elsa's Spirit of Winters Enchanted has defied logic almost since it released. So take any advice on this one with a grain of salt, because when it comes to this card in particular, a lot of things don't make sense long term for it. So it could end up just spiking while everything else is down. It could end up spiking again. You never know with this particular card. But my thought on it is that we're going to see a price decrease on it before we see the price increase on it. It's still the most popular card. It's still the most highly sought after card. Still a great card to have in your collection. So don't feel bad if you have. If you bought it up that $2,000 price point, I think it'll get back up there. It's just going to be a little bit longer before it gets there. As far as Enchanteds go for this set, the rest of them are all pretty much down across the board. And again, a lot of that is because of these listings. You see, there's just way more of these coming to the market, and there will continue to be way more of them. Still very good prices. I mean, keep in mind, these boxes right now, you can go out and buy these boxes for, I said, very close to MSRP. Even on TCG Player, you're looking at just over MSRP whenever you're even considering shipping prices. And you've got a 25% chance of pulling cards that are, worth, sometimes 3 or 4 times the cost of the box. Sometimes several of these are almost twice the value of the box. And I think all of them at this point are over MSRP on the box. Maybe a few of the smaller ones down here are under, but still very strong. Now, I did want to point out that the bottom performers here, like these 4 to 5, depending on how you want to look at Simba. Simba's kind of had some weird buyout action in the past on him, but these 5 down here have kind of just organically been growing this whole time. They've never really been part of the buyouts that have been happening. Again, Simba had one early on, I think just because he had the lowest inventory of all the Enchanteds that were out there. But these 4 especially really have not been part of any kind of singular buyouts. So their growth is much more organic and really kind of grown pretty robustly. I mean, Hades is almost up double where he was at just a few months ago. Let's go back to 6 months here. Yeah. I mean, back at the end of December, $74 card. And again, up to 167 market right now with 150 sales listed currently. So a very nice kind of growth. And if you want to kind of look at what we can expect, maybe a long-term kind of growth models, these may be a good indicator. Now, the more popular characters are going to have a higher premium, but these less popular characters can kind of show you just what you kind of can expect as kind of your baseline growth models too. So not bad news there. Now, as far as box prices, we talked a little bit about it briefly already. But these box prices, honestly, TCG Player is usually a pretty good indicator of the market. However, in this case, with these stores being asked, well, specifically told not to sell the first chapter product that they are getting online, that does skew these numbers a bit. Like I said, as far as local sales have gone, I've seen most, if not all, stores hovering very, very close to MSRP, maybe slightly higher, maybe slightly lower in some circumstances. But I have not seen any stores on a local level that have been selling at above these market prices here at this $216. I think a lot of these box prices are individuals who are trying to move product that they've either already purchased before, or people who are buying from their local stores and trying to flip for a little bit of a margin on that there. So I do think that has inflated the online price of these a little bit. Again, like I said, I just got probably 2.5 weeks ago, bought a case at $588, I think was shipped out the door. So again, almost half of what case prices are going for right now. And again, outside of just using market value for like a trade deal or something like that, I would not be looking to pay this box price. You can go onto the forums, you can go into your LCS. Most of them are going to be able to hook you up with a much better price than TCG Player on those. So just keep that in mind. Box prices are down. TCG Player had them at, I think, around $250 towards the beginning of April. They spiked all the way up to $300 in that very short window from the beginning of April to like the end of the first week where they announced a huge restock was coming. They'd gotten all the way up to, I think, $300 a box. And I had talked about the restock at $314 right there at that into that first week, and then you can just see plummeting with the inventory that came in, which is good. Again, if you had not had the opportunity to buy any of the product up to this point in time, it's a great time to get in, because I do think, and I want to make this very clear, I do think this is still a great long-term hold. And when I say long-term, I mean I'm talking like 3 to 5 years. But probably within 12 months that this stuff will all be back above where it was at with these April numbers. I think this inventory that we have right now has still probably got about 2 months of shelf life in it. So I could see numbers getting very close to what they were towards the end of December after we got the first reprint wave that hit. But similar to the beginning of December, by the end of January, prices were already starting to rally. Going into February, really starting to ramp up. And then by the end of March, beginning of April, they were kind of at their peak. And I look for a similar cycle here. So I'd say we're probably about 2 to 4 months, 6 months at the longest before we recover to that. And like I said, with them coming out and basically saying they're done with first chapter, not officially done, but all signs point to being done with first chapter, I think we've got probably about a 6-month window before these numbers rally. And within 12 months, I think these cards will still be in a very, very good spot. So even if you did buy at kind of the peak in April, I don't panic sell. I don't think these are going to crash. I don't think the bottom's going to go out of it. I still think the demand for first chapter still is going to far exceed the supply. We have new players coming in all the time with organized play, with the strength of the Stitch Rockstar promos sales right now, which we'll get into a little bit. I think it's just going to bring even more and more competitive people in, and they're going to be looking for this product as well. So it's not all doom and gloom. If you're heavily invested in first chapter, I think you've got a little bit of a setback with this inventory. But if nothing else, this gives you an opportunity to buy more of what you're in at a lower price, because you've already seen the potential of what first chapter can do once supply dries up. All right, looking at Rise of the Floodborn, we've got a lot of retracing on this one too, which is a little odd because we did not get a huge restock of this one, and the prices for this set were already starting to go up with product of this set still sitting on the shelves. So, I mean, it's not like the supply had ran out of this set before these buyouts started happening. Again, across the board, still a very strong performer in general. A lot of these top enchanteds have been steadily increasing in price. Sisu, probably the most surprising of all. This card has gotten no support in new spoilers. And in a PSA, 10 is only worth like $250, so not a great multiplier on PSA either. But as you can see, just been climbing even with the restock. So I'm not sure why the popularity of this card is going up, but it is. If you've got one, it's a good card to have right now. The Atlas and the Snow White were both part of a smaller buyout end of March, and have kind of trailed off a little bit for that. I still think the $250 price tag on these is very, very strong, and I do think they both have some upward potential there, as Cinderella has kind of started to climb to kind of those, not a casual purchase price range. Again, we've got one listed at $365, but we've got the sales of $490 in that same day, and I think, the 365 listing is not one of the verified sellers. I don't normally discredit those, but when he's got 3 sales, we can probably throw that one out. And then when we toss that, we have the lowest ones at $450. So it hasn't dropped off much. I think this one was hovering around that $500 price point going into April. Might have just tipped up towards the beginning of April. Yeah, we've got a few very big sales right there at the very peak, but again, the 7th at 500, and then by the 11th back down to 500, minus a few crazy sales there. It's kind of been hovering around that $500 benchmark, so it hasn't really dropped off much. I think a lot of this is kind of credited to two reasons. With Chapter 1 getting a huge restock and it affecting the price of the Enchanteds so dramatically, I do think that is going to kind of slow people down from wanting to invest or even just purchase any of these higher priced Enchanteds, which whenever that demand drops is obviously going to cause a price decrease. Another thing too, with the now confirmation of 18 Enchanteds in set 4, I think that's going to kind of drive up the price of the Enchanteds in those bigger sets, just because it's going to be harder to get the ones that you want, and conversely decrease the demand on these smaller sets because of the fact that there are just fewer cards that can be whiffs in these sets. I mean, you have the low demand cards down here, you know, topping with like Pete and Madam Mim, but still pretty robust price tag, still paying for the cost of the box, especially, you know, when box prices are at $115 a box, versus these new sets that are going to have Enchanteds that have been hovering around like $50 or $60. Is going to increase the top end that much more. I still think that there are going to be top performers in each of the sets to come, and I still think the ones that we have in set 1 and set 2 are also going to continue to be front runners. But I do think as sets progress, and as more Enchanteds are going to be kind of the norm now, and especially a lower demand Enchanteds for sure, I think we can see a bigger separation in those Enchanteds going forward. All right, and looking at Into the Inklands here, we've got Ursula, Deceiver of All. Has actually been on a little bit of an upswing. There was a buyout for her not too long ago. She's coming down off of that buyout, but still holding steady up there. I mean, you see $555 for a near mint here. I think it's probably our biggest sale. But yeah, there was a buyout there. It's coming back down just a little bit. I'll be honest, this card, as much as I like this card, I think this card is a terrible buy right now. And the reason why I have not picked one up, if you aren't aware, this card was produced with an errata on the card for the Dreamborn versus Storyborn. And as soon as that information came to light, this card was basically bought out. Price skyrocketed from, you know, like the $180 mark where it was kind of sitting with the rest of the Enchanteds at release to $330, and has pretty much never looked back from that point in time. I think it's pretty clear at this point in time now that we're not going to get a printed version of the errata correction. And if we do, at this point, the print run would be so small that the corrected version would be way more rare than the non-corrected version. So that one would be the one that would have the premium on it, even though it would be correct, and this would be the error. I've seen it before in other card games. It's not so much the fact that this one has an error that makes it valuable. It's the assumption that the error is going to be corrected or had been corrected, and it would be the more rare one of the two. And that's clearly not going to be the case at this point. There's been a ton of Into the Inklands put into the market at this point in time. There's no way that a reprint of the same size of the original wave is going to be coming out, which just means, again, we're either just not going to get it corrected or it's going to be the less rare of the two. And because of that, I don't think that the premium that this card is drawing from that is going to hold. Now, it is a great looking card, and it is a very playable card, possibly the best Emerald card that we will see anytime soon. But I still have the mindset of this, $389 price tag, that probably close to $189 of that is still there from the hyperinflation from the people rushing to get their copy of the errata card. I just don't think that that's going to be able to sustain that price long term. Now, all in all, again, the Enchanteds from the set, as we just talked about with set 2, have been performing very well on like the character cards. with several of the characters chiming in up here. And again, we talked about that, is like the demand for these is going to be higher because unfortunately you can open some of these duds down here. And because of that is going to make the ones that people want more expensive. So all in all, great buy for this set. I mean, you have case prices right now at $439.98, which is basically like wholesale prices for this set. I think this is actually a great buy at this point in time. I think this set has a lot of staying power, a lot of really good cards in this set. Again, Ursula, I think, is going to be a defining card for Emerald for a while. Robin Hood, I think, is going to be a defining card for Steel for a while. Honestly, this Jafar is already a really good, probably tier 1.5 deck, and is only going to get more support as additional sets come out. So, I mean, again, just very, very solid cards. Along came Zeus, another card in this set that is going to be in Steel decks for a long time to come. You get what I'm saying here. Like, there's just a ton of cards in this set that are just really, really good. I would say power level wise, this is the best set we've had so far. And long term, those sets usually perform very well. Now, there's a lot of it out there right now, which is why you can get it so inexpensively. A lot of stores had to order a lot of this one in expectations of getting allocated, and allocations didn't really come. And so a lot of stores ended up with huge amounts of these, which ended up with a lot of these going for wholesale so the stores could have the revenue and the cash flow that they needed to make other purchases for their stores. But just a ton of good cards in this set, and I think a good sealed hold for a while. Now, it will be a while on this one. I think there's enough inventory for this set to last quite a while out, but I mean, we're talking probably a year to 2 years, and this set, I think, is going to be one of those ones where a lot of the singles prices get very, very high for this set. You already have 2 legendaries in this set that are hovering around that $40 price point, with a number of other cards that, again, are just going to be cards that get better with time. You know, we talked about Jim Hawkins. We've talked about Lucky Dime. Just a lot of really good cards, and I do like the long-term prospects of this set. All right, and last but certainly not least is the Stitch Rockstar from the Store Championships, hovering right around that $650 mark. Now, it's important to distinguish that these $650 sales, while being near mint, are not really the same as your normal near mint. If you weren't aware, the distribution of the Rockstar Stitches was actually pretty poorly executed by Ravensburger, with the 4 promos being stuck in a single kind of wax pack and just kind of tossed into the box with the 2 mats. The cards have a lot of edge wear. Some of them are actually damaged by the packaging that they were in, have really bad print lines or indentations on them from the packaging that they were in. Lots of silvering on the front, even some hollow bleed on the front from just like the friction of wearing against the other cards. So yes, a lot of them may be near mint, but not a lot of them are going to be in that near mint plus to mint range. It's something that, if you're looking at grading a card, would make it candidates for anything above like a PSA 8 even. So you got to be careful with those. If you're buying these ungraded, I would definitely ask for a lot of pictures, possibly even videos of the cards, just to ensure that they're in the condition that you're expecting them to get. Because out of the 16 that I saw in person from the Store Championship weekends, I would say only about 8 of them would have any shot of being PSA 10s. And that's not counting any of the ones I saw posted online, which were either really off-center or, again, just had miscut corners or other damages on the card. I have seen multiple people that are out there that have posted much higher buy prices like that, looking to purchase PSA 10 quality ones at about $1,000. So there definitely is a higher market out there than even this $650 if you are in possession of one that could possibly be a PSA 10 candidate. We've had 2 PSA 10 sales now, both for $3,500 plus. So I do think that there is going to be a much higher premium on the ones that don't have the obvious defects on them. Now, if you do have one, despite the sale prices for them right now being higher than I expected, and I did expect these to kind of release at like this price point, that $500 to $600 price point, but I really expected them to have cooled off and been closer to like that $350 price point now. However, I did think that the short release window for these could actually help the long-term prices for these, because fewer people would be able to travel to get multiples of these. And as such, people are going to be more likely to hold on to the one or two of them that they may have been able to get their hands on. Not to mention just that initial surge of people who may have missed out on their opportunity to play or win one, that immediately ran out to purchase one off the secondary market. So I do think that we could see this price actually going up in time, especially as we start to see more of these PSA returns come in and see kind of how many of these 10s really are going to end up in the population. If you have a 10 candidate, that price point is really going to start to go up. On the other side of that, if you don't have a card that's in good shape, it has one of those defects that are on it, we could see the demand for those greatly kind of drop off as time goes on. So if you aren't looking to keep that in your personal collection going forward, it may be a good time to sell. And if you are looking for one right now, honestly, if you're patient and you're willing to take one that's not a perfect condition card, I think you can find them out there probably closer to even that $500 price point. But if you are looking for one that is a gradable candidate, just make sure you're getting lots of pictures, again, videos, so forth and so on. This is a card that I was lucky enough to get 3 of. I was able to get 2 of my 3 that I think are PSA 10 candidates. One is actually already graded as a PSA 10. My second one I'm sending in, I hope gets a PSA 10 as well. And honestly, I may just hold on to it because I think that PSA 10s for this card could be very, very rare, and long-term value of a PSA 10 could end up going up even higher than their already lofty $3,500 price tag. So there you guys have it. There's the breakdown of what's going on right now in the Lorcana market, as well as kind of my thoughts on where the market stands right now. If you guys have any questions or comments, leave them down in the comment section below. And until next time, guys, Hobby Hero out.